Okay, the channel is live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adventure on so many levels. We're going to play Masks, a new generation.
Yay!
Heroes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, I am Christiana Ellis, and I will be the game master. This is going to be session 0 for our brand new campaign. So only some of our players have player character names yet, but so far, let's meet Jason Banks,
Hi.
Lee Burdett,
Hello.
Paul Weimer,
Hi there.
Dove Archambault,
Hello.
and Nobilis Reed.
Hiya.
So we will also have Millie Katie back with this campaign, but I believe she's unfortunately under the weather tonight. So we will have to bring her in as things develop. But so let's start first things first here. When we were talking about what to play for our next campaign, there were several different ideas floated around, different types of genres discussed, but what the genre that kind of overwhelmingly won out on that vote was superhero, which was something we haven't done before on so many levels. And so before we just jump right into the actual character creation and world building, how about each of you tell me a little bit about like what attracted you to the idea of doing a superhero campaign?
Well, there's a lot that Campbell was wrong about, but the idea that superheroes are the modern mythology really rings true for me. And when we play around with fantasy, especially, um, well, we're kind of fooling around with old mythology a lot of the time and legends and to some extent we're kind of playing in someone else's sandbox, sort of. And I don't mean personally, I mean like culturally. But superheroes are our mythology. They're the people we here around the table tell stories about when it comes to gods and monsters.
Nice. Who wants to follow that?
That's pretty hard.
Yeah. I'll
I mean,
follow that with
I,
a I'll follow that with a I really liked comic books when I was a lot younger. Anime, manga, Marvel, a little bit of DC. I'll admit DC was really hard to get into for me, but Marvel definitely. I love the Teen Titans animated show.
Mhm.
And I mean, what's not to love about superheroes? And
Sure.
To follow up on that, oh, you want to go up? Go ahead.
uh, my my interest is uh, basically superheroes. They do a lot on a scale that sometimes it's hard to comprehend, and just being able to say I do this, and it and there being no question in most cases. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
Nice.
Going back to what Lee was talking about, it was like 1984. I picked up an issue of Spider-Man where he winds up hanging out with the Wasp and dealing with Paladin. And then a couple of months later, Secret Wars came out, and so I got dumped into the deep end of all these Marvel superheroes I'd never heard of, aside from cartoons, like Spidey and his Amazing Friends and stuff. So I kind of got submerged in the characters I'd never heard of and had come up for air. So I've had superheroes in my blood for a long while, but I haven't played a superhero game in this century. So I think I was overdue for a superhero
Mhm.
game and exploring the superhero genre as a role-playing system.
I imagine you probably haven't even uh, played one this millennium, much less century.
Well, those come out to be the same thing.
I
But yeah.
know.
Thank you, Duff, for telling me math, teaching me math. Yes. This millennium, yes. So it's
Well,
overdue.
in a superhero campaign, maximalism is encouraged, you know?
I can't say he's wrong. Can't say you're wrong.
But how about you, Jason?
Um, well, I mean, as Nobilis, I'm sure, has said multiple times on this show, that obviously a huge anime fan. And I've read comics forever. Matter of fact, I actually still have an active pull list at my shop. And they just started a cool new Luke Cage run called Timeless Luke Cage. It's my favorite type of thing because I like to cross class in D&D because he's like an amalgamation of like the Iron Fist, Hulk, and like a couple other things. So like, yeah, man, like superheroes are dope.
Ultimately, that's what matters. Superheroes
Yes.
are dope.
Yes. So,
Yes.
when it comes to picking a game to play a superhero campaign, Masks: A New Generation was the very first one that I thought of, primarily just because it's designed for exactly this. Now, there are a number of other games that can do different sort of flavors of superhero campaign, but what Masks: A New Generation is all about is, first of all, we will be making a team of young superheroes. Like, you don't necessarily have to be a teenager specifically. You could be even younger. We might have a character who's like a kid. That would be allowed, by the way. But the idea is that you are the new generation of superheroes. There have been 3 generations of heroes out there already, and a lot of them are still active and running around, and they think they know best. But this is the young, hip, new team on the scene trying to figure themselves out, prove themselves to the rest of the heroes, and then maybe find a date for Saturday night. So that is what we're going to be doing. This is a Powered by the Apocalypse game. We've played a couple of those before on this on this channel. We played Root, the role-playing game. We played Apocalypse Keys. Both of those had their own sort of flavor of Powered by the Apocalypse, but the primary mechanic is very similar here. Everyone is, whenever you're going to do a roll, you're going to roll 2d6, and then you're going to add whatever applicable modifier is there. If you get a 6 or less, that's a miss. 7 to 9 is a mixed success, and then 10 plus is a complete success. Pretty straightforward there, but then that's where we're just getting started, right? So when it comes to this game, another thing that I kind of want us to touch on is safety tools. And part of the reason that I really want to call attention to this, even though we as a group have been playing for a while now, and so probably we all kind of know each other well enough generally that we might be able to navigate this without having to explicitly call out safety tools. But in particular, this game features a lot of emotions, right? We're going to be playing a lot of young people who have big emotions. There's no HP in this game. People don't get, injured. What they get is angry or insecure or afraid, right? Emotional conditions are a big part of how this game works. And it's all about, like, whose opinion do you care about? Who cares about your opinion? How are you feeling today? How, can you comfort your friends? And all of that sort of thing. Big emotions for these young superheroes is primary to the game mechanics. And so what that means is we may frequently be in circumstances where we're wanting to role play those big emotions for our characters. And we might have conflict between the player characters, right? Where there's a disagreement on how something was handled, or what should happen next, or who should get to go out with that hot guy on campus, right? It's all of these things are part of what we'll want to be role playing. And so it's really important that we all understand as a group that if there's ever a point where the emotions stop being fun to role play in the game and start being like unpleasant, or you really you don't like this, in the campaign. Like, please, I hope everybody understands this by now. That I will, if there's ever a request to say, no, let's take that back, let's change something about this, we can always do that. And so please, if there's ever a case where that's happening, you can let me know, try to do it either privately or, just say so in the game. Because I think we've all been playing together long enough. We all know that we're trying to all have a good time here. And so anytime that there would be something that would make anyone actually unhappy as a player versus a character, we can always fix that. We're going to do lots of things to make the characters unhappy.
It's powered by the apocalypse. It's guaranteed.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
So in this case, then, so in the chat, as a good point, yes. So none of Peter B. Parker from Spider-Verse would not be a player character. Miles might, though, and we could have a Peter B. Parker NPC, for example, right? It's there's actually several playbooks that are literally there's actually 3 different playbooks that are primarily about a young hero who is either trying to live up to or distance themselves from a specific existing older hero. So, like, that's a big piece of what
Or
could
villain.
be, or villain, certainly, yes. So with that sort of safety tools stuff in play, I think we also we don't have to go through all of them in detail right now, but something that I'll be asking from all of you offline is if we can talk about some like lines and veils and that sort of thing. With the understanding too that there might be some sensitive topics that we might want to explore as a story, which we can absolutely do, but we'll want to know with some of those whether, like, is that something that everybody's comfortable with, or is that something we want to handle very delicately, and that sort of thing. All of that's allowed, but that's what we'll kind of want to like work through and make
There's
sure.
there's some good checklists and things out there that might be worthwhile, just doing over again, because these things change.
Well, and we're in a very different genre now too.
Right.
So
right.
a lot of the context for some of that might be very different because we're going to be playing in a modern city where superheroes have been around for a long time, but otherwise it's going to be a lot like our world in ways that Planescape wasn't, for example.
Yeah.
And so there are going to be certain topics that would just likely never come up in any way in, Icewind Dale, but might in a modern city. So we'll kind of talk about that, and we don't need to go through all of it online tonight, but we'll be doing that behind the scenes. So from there.
My thought on like lines and veils, kind of have it be a thing where like, use like TV ratings.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's another way we can look at it. I think we'll find
that's
some
like
tools.
the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Well, like just
There's
like
a lot of stuff that's completely allowed in a rated G or PG situation that might be something people don't want to deal with. So
yeah.
Yeah. So I think that there's a couple of things though that are kind of built into the game as far as this is concerned. So one of the things this is on page 32 of the main book here, when it talks about your team, is that one is you all choose to be here. Nobody is on this team against their will. This is like nobody has to do this. You are on the team, and you might have some complicated feelings, but nobody is forcing you to be on the team. You're there by choice. Another is you aren't killers. Now, I think this is going to be broadly another thing that we will have happen in the game is that there's obviously superhero stories can encompass a wide variety of tone. But I think in this context, what I'm thinking is not only are your player characters not killers, meaning this is not to say, okay, let me say the broader thing first. I think this is going to be a campaign where people are, if anyone dies, and this is, NPCs, randos on the street, whatever, it's always a big deal. There is never going to be a tossed off, oh, and 25 people were killed in an explosion. Not going to do that. That doesn't mean nobody can die. But if that happens, it will always be something meaningful is happening. And I think, just by and large, this is not a game where your characters are going to die unless for some reason we really decided that's where the story felt like it has to go. Mechanically, there's not even a mechanic for it. But furthermore, you aren't killers. And what it says here in the book is like, you're a fairly young team. You may have made some mistakes and blown some stuff up. Your actions might have led to deaths, but you aren't killers, and you don't solve problems by killing those on the other side as if it were no consequence. If your team is interested in pursuing more drastic measures, you might grapple with the complexities of killing as a solution to a difficult problem. But so far, your team hasn't gone down that dark path. Now, it's a classic superhero debate. Should Batman kill the Joker, right? It's like he keeps getting out and hurting more people. What if you just killed him, right? Like, this is classic superhero stuff. And I would fully expect that sort of thing could come up in the campaign. But as it says here, it would, if that were to ever even be introduced, it would be like a serious conversation to have, right? Your characters don't just do that. Which isn't to say that there aren't other characters who might, right? You aren't illegal or openly hunted yet. Your team might technically be illegal, depending on the specifics of how superhuman teams are treated in your version of Halcyon City. But even if you are, you aren't yet hunted by the authorities. Adults are more than likely making overtures to your team, offering to sanction you or guide you, and thereby provide you with whatever legal support you need. The actions you take over the course of play might lead you to a place where you're actively pursued or captured, but that won't be the case at the start of play. Likewise, on the other side, you aren't beloved. Just as you aren't yet hunted by other superheroes or law enforcement, you also aren't beloved by the city yet. You might be more or less well-liked, more or less doubted, but either way, your team hasn't been around long enough for the public to truly develop any kind of abiding interest in or fondness for your team yet. If you're loved, it's the love of celebrity, temporary, and easily turned to hate. Anybody have any questions about those? Okay, so that leads us next to just very big picture, broad stroke stuff. The book describes a city, Halcyon City, which has a history and has some locations. It has a vibe to it. By and large, I think the game is kind of like it's assuming that general sort of a situation, that there are these previous generations of heroes that have been around. There's a little bit of a history vibe, to it in terms of like what each generation was kind of like and the broad history of the world. I guess I want to just toss out here as an open question. Do we want to proceed under the basis that we are, whether we call it something else or not, more or less playing in the Halcyon City described in the game, or do we want to kind of design our own setting that might be different in some ways?
I would love it if we had a Halcyon City that wasn't based on New York City.
Okay, sure.
I mean, like, Metropolis is New York City at its best, and Gotham is New York City at its worst. And I would love to see some other city represented. Now,
Sure.
I've spent most of my life in the Northeast. So New York City is kind of like, oh, that's the big city, for me. But but just like I mean, Christiana,
Hmm.
Boston would be a great place to model our Halcyon City after.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know it, and
Mhm.
pretty fairly well, I imagine by now.
Oh yeah. You know.
And it's got a lot of interesting things about it, and
Yeah.
a lot of character, and um, you know,
Unique.
and
Sure.
I don't think, when people think of Massachusetts in terms of literature, they don't think superheroes; they think H.P. Lovecraft. So, um,
Yeah.
that,
Sure.
I'm throwing it out as a
Okay.
suggestion.
Well, I can absolutely keep that in mind when the time comes to describe various city locations and everything. Like, I'm assuming though that we are still this, we are not saying this is a fictionalized version of Boston, but we're just saying Boston
But
is the seed, the inspiration. Okay.
Yeah. That's
I
absolutely what I'm suggesting.
Sure. I just want to make sure we're all on the same
Mhm.
page.
I like the idea of staying within Halcyon City as the fiction.
Okay.
Like,
Mhm.
it's, you know, not necessarily making a different place.
Sure. So we want to just go ahead and we will call it Halcyon City?
That's the thing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
Yep.
great.
Yeah.
I think that works for me. So I think one of the pieces again, like where it talks about like what sorts of parts of the fiction really start to cause a problem if you veer away from them too much, and one of them is the idea that whatever city we might use as the inspiration for it, it does kind of need to be a place where it makes sense that there's a lot of activity there. Like it's not merely a big city, but it's a city where a lot of heroic activity kind of takes place.
Mhm.
Just like how in the DC world, right? Like, every time there's an alien invasion, where does it start? It starts in Metropolis because
Yeah.
that's just how it works, right?
Yeah.
So Halcyon City is that city. It is the city where if something is going to happen in a city, it happens in Halcyon City. Okay, so I think then if we're agreed that we're going to stick with the general vibe as of Halcyon City as described by the book, that does
Mhm.
simplify some things because, of course, we have the material in the book that we can already draw from, and then it's just we're already at a point where we're all kind of looking at the same thing, right?
Mhm.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
So I think then, does anybody have any other like broad, big picture questions like that before we start talking about the basic moves and then getting into the character building?
Um, thing I'm wondering is like, like it talked about like heroes being illegal or needing to be registered or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. I like the idea of heroes kind of being open, like maybe like there's some, like they have their own self-regulating body
Mm-hmm.
and that works with the government, or yeah, kind of thing where here being a hero is kind of open. You're not expected to, get licensed, but like if
Mm-hmm.
someone with appropriate authority were to come up to you, you would be expected to listen.
Right, but several of the playbooks, including mine, have got like stuff with secret identities going on.
Yeah,
So we can't go
well,
too
I mean,
far in
like
that direction.
I'm just
Well,
saying, like the
I
thing
mean,
where
I
if
mean,
you're out in your hero identity,
sure,
you know,
yeah. Like, so the
Yeah.
idea is
you're
that
subject to hero law.
yeah, and so I think a secret identity doesn't conflict with that. It's simply the difference between, are you someone where everywhere you go, you are your heroic identity and people recognize you as that, and that is every day. So whether you're on the clock or not, if you're going
Yeah.
to the grocery store, you're still your hero. Or do you maybe have like the whole sort of second layer to your life where people don't even know that you're that hero, right? Like
I think
that's
but I think what Dave was saying is that Halcyon City is the kind of place where when you go down to your local bar, there might be a guy on the end of the bar who's wearing a cape.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had the impression that it was more about like sort of the legal status and everything, of the sense
Yeah.
yeah,
that
Yeah.
like there have been heroes long enough that there is just like it's kind of a moot question to try to say it's illegal to be a superhero. Superheroes are around, they just are. And so but that said, I think that there is I think it's most interesting to imagine that there is some complexity there, because it could certainly still be the case where it's not inherently illegal to be a superhero. But if, for example, you show up and you start fighting some guy holding up a bodega and cause a lot of damage, is that
Some-
just something that is like, well, you know, the
That's just
store
what
owner
happened.
needs to pay their insurance premium? Or is it like, is there ever a question of who's legally responsible for that sort of thing, right? Is that something that only just gets kind of enforced by the other heroes? Do we like, to what degree, if a police officer tells a hero you're under arrest, is the expectation that they will submit to that?
Yeah, that's definitely something I think would be good.
My offer here is that I think it's good to leave it vague, because if you think about any of these comic books that we're talking about, right? They generally speaking don't really get into granular detail, because what they want is the freedom to kind of tell whatever kind of story they want to tell in any
Yeah.
given issue, right? And so instead of trying to say, let's make sure we understand the exact legal ins and outs, we can say, just by and large, you're not going to be arrested just for being a superhero. But if you're out there causing a lot of damage or doing things that obviously might attract the ire of the general public, there might be legal consequences.
Repercussions.
Yeah. So I think that's where, you know, it makes sense to have it. You know, I think we're still just drawing on kind of the classic, you know, DC and Marvel comic books
Right.
vibe for that.
Yeah.
You know, like, for example, you know, Spider-Man. Well, you know, some people like him, some people don't. He generally tries, you know, he's helping out the police by and large by trying to catch bad guys, but also he does not stick around to talk with them afterwards. Generally, right? You know, there's a lot of stories with him. But so in any case, let's start talking just very quickly about the basic mechanics in this game. We talked already about like the primary dice roll that you do, but everyone has 5 labels, is what they call it here. Where I'm trying to pull up. So the 5 labels are danger, which is kind of just like, strictly speaking, like if you're going to run up in something and punch something, like, you know, it is the aggressive, active combat label. Freak is the label for like the more extraordinary sort of superhuman type of powers and abilities, but also could be for things like just like how, you know, if your freak label is high, it might be a reflection of you not feeling very in touch with humanity right now, right? There's also savior, which is primarily the stat used when you are explicitly defending someone or something. Superior is for like, you know, when you're trying to assess the situation or trying to read, you know, to try to get someone to do what you want. And then mundane is when you are trying to just like offer comfort and support to someone, or to pierce the mask, which is the I want to try to like understand what a person is thinking or what they want. And those are the basic labels. And so, as mentioned, the basic moves. You know what? We don't necessarily need to go through all of those, but we might be talking about some of them as we talk about the mechanics and choosing certain things in the characters, right? There are the basic moves, which, as we mentioned, are, you know, like directly engage a threat, which you use the danger stat, danger label. unleash your powers is, you use freak. Defend someone, you use savior. Assess the situation or provoke someone, which is superior. And then comfort or support someone is mundane, so is pierce the mask. Now, some of the moves that you might take for your specific playbook might give you the ability to make some of those moves using a different label, right? And so we'll talk about some of that as well. There's also take a powerful blow, which is a move that you will make reactively when I tell you to. And it's usually going to be something determined by the fiction. Like, for example, if you charge a really badass supervillain and you get a mixed success, you might get the thing you want, but then also you will be prepared to take a powerful blow. And the interesting thing with that one is that you roll the number of conditions you have. And so
And
the
you
way,
won't commit.
yeah, and this is the one example where you don't want to roll high. And so this is the move that will often, let's talk about conditions. The conditions that you can have in this game are angry, afraid, guilty, hopeless, or insecure. And each of those, when you have that condition, invokes a penalty on some kind of move or another. For example, if you are afraid, you're going to have a harder time directly engaging a threat, right? That sort of thing. And so with those conditions, if you're feeling insecure, you might have a harder time defending someone or rejecting someone's influence. And when you would need to mark a condition, but you can't mark one anymore, then you would have to basically leave the scene. So this is the equivalent of getting knocked out here, right? Now we could decide in the fiction how it actually is reflected, but the basic gist of it is if there is an enemy that is fills up how many conditions they can have, that's what takes them out. Vice versa, if a player character ends up filling up all of those conditions, then they would need to be taken out of the scene as well. There's a couple of different ways that you can recover or clear those conditions. So another player can do comfort or support someone to help remove a condition. There's other special moves that can do it, but then there's also basically things that you can just do to. So, for example, if you have the angry condition, this is something you probably. If you hurt someone or break something important, to clear afraid, run from something difficult. To clear guilty, make a sacrifice to absolve your guilt. These are all role play things, right? And they could happen in any scene, but it's important to note that the condition does not get cleared until the end of the scene where you do that thing. Right. So that's not something you can do during combat to fix one of those things. Now, the other ways, if someone does comfort or support someone to remove a condition, that would happen right away. There is also a resource known as Team, which can allow you all to help each other with different moves and do other sorts of various miscellaneous mechanics. Whenever you enter the battle against a dangerous foe as a team, there's a little move that will do to determine how many team points you enter that combat with. There's also the last of the sort of major mechanics here is something called influence. When a character has influence over you, if they tell you who you are or how the world works, you have a choice. You can either accept what they say, and that will result in adjusting the values of your labels. So, for example, if you have a danger of 2 and a mundane of 1, it could, for example, if someone was saying, you need to stop acting so recklessly, you need to be more like a normal person. And if they have influence over you, what they might be wanting to do is make your danger move down by 1 and your mundane move up by 1. And so you can either just accept what they say, or you can do a move to try to reject that influence. And so it's going to be something that we're going to track throughout the game, that you're always tracking who does or does not have influence over you and who do you have influence over. Because whether or not you have that influence or they have that influence, it affects what they can do for you. And this is important because you're all playing young heroes. By default, all adults have influence on you. But if you want to reject the influence, you can when you can do a move basically to try to reject the influence and not change your labels in the way they want. And so you can cancel that character's influence potentially, right? And then there's also, if you have influence over someone, you can take advantage of your influence to do certain things, right? So that's a mechanic that we'll be exploring as well. But so some of that you need to know because some of the playbook mechanics might talk about those things, and we need to know kind of what we're dealing with. Does anyone have any questions about those broad mechanics before we start getting into playbooks?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Okay, great. So, like Root and like Apocalypse Keys, the way characters work in Masks is by you choose a playbook, and the playbook is less about a specific power set and more about the general archetype of the character. So, for example, just going to read a couple here. There's the bull is the bruiser with a heart of gold, created to be a weapon, caught between being a cold, gruff fighter and caring deeply about teammates. Or the legacy is the latest in a family of heroes, part of a larger tradition of heroism with its own enemies, rules, and obligations. You note what is in common about both of those? They don't mention powers, right? Powers are secondary when you're choosing a playbook. Now, you get to choose your powers, and there's, some of the different playbooks have different powers to choose from, but the primary element in choosing a playbook is what kind of character are they? What sorts of stories are you most interested in telling with them, right? So, for example, the bull, as we saw there, caught between being a cold, gruff fighter and caring deeply about teammates, it's like, well, are you just there to punch stuff, or, are you there to try to, support your team too, right? Like, there's a dynamic there. The legacy, it's like, are you trying to just live up to your superheroic predecessor or parent or whatever, or are you trying to do your own thing, right? It's all about those kinds of stories, and less specifically about like what kind of powers do they have. Because by and large, we talked about what those main moves are, right? Directly engage a threat. Well, how? That's going to depend on what your powers are, right? Like you're just going to describe it in the fiction. The move is the same. Same for unleash your powers. Well, you're going to describe what it is in the fiction, but the move is the same no matter what it is. And so, I know some of you have already selected your playbooks, but the next step of when you choose your playbook, and there's going to be some starting levels for the labels depending on which playbook you have, and at character creation you're going to take those starting values and add +1 to any of them that you want. So you can make that, if you have a +2, you could make it into a +3, or if you had a -1, you could make it into a 0. But notably, you cannot ever, for any reason, make something go above +3. If someone is doing a help move, they can add a +1 to a given move. And so +4 is the highest roll that you can make in this game. Meaning, if you have a +3 in a label and someone is helping you, then you would roll a +4. That is the highest that you could ever roll. So the labels can only ever be up to +3. Although when you do advancements, you can raise one of your labels, but they can still only ever go up to +3. Then there's going to be some backstory questions. We're going to ask some things like when our team first came together. We're going to do those towards the end. We're going to talk about relationships, who has influence over you, and so on. And so I know some of you are still kind of reading through and trying to decide which ones that you're interested in, and we can help with some of that if we have questions. But also, I know some of you have more or less done almost all of this already. So I know, Nobilis, I think you were the farthest along before we started the recording here. So do you want to talk
Yeah.
a little bit about your character?
Sure. So Flair uses the outsider playbook.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's a shapeshifter. His body is a kind of neon yellow. He's glowing eyes. Doesn't have a secret identity. Doesn't have a mundane way of going. He's always in his outfit, and this is an outfit that he's kind of inherited. This is what is expected of him because he is an emissary from the people who live in the sun.
Oh,
Now very little is known about them except what little has been revealed by the various people who have held this station of being the emissary to Earth. But what's generally known is that they're kind of mysterious and that while they don't have a hive mind, they pass information to each other by blending their bodies together. And so they do have individual consciousness, but it's kind of a loose understanding of the concept. Flair's pronouns are whatever the hell you want. We'll answer to any of them. Flair can fly, is pretty tough, and has heliokinesis and radical shapeshifting. And I got the idea for Flair being from the sun from the heliokinesis thing,
Sure.
which I'd never heard before.
Ah.
Needed to go look it up. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, well, that just sounds too cool.
Right. And so, just for reference, the playbook for the outsider in abilities does start with you can fly and you're pretty tough. And then you choose 2 of a list of
Right.
6. And so you chose heliokinesis and radical shapeshifting. And so that's just
Right.
an example of how the playbooks work.
Right. And do you want me to go in any further detail on that? I've
Yeah,
got a little bit
just go
more.
ahead and just say what's
The
your
backstory
highest and lowest
Okay.
labels, and which did you
Um,
put one in?
My highest label was superior, but I put +1 in freak to make that a +2 as well.
Okay.
And my lowest is danger, which is -1.
Right. And so just again, as we learn what these labels mean, that means that, you're going to be very good at sort of like assessing the situation and having weird, unusual, non-traditional like powers. Like you could do or, I don't want to say non-traditional. I just mean
But
that's powers that are less about like, I'm going to go fly up and punch that guy.
Right.
All right.
Radiation blasts and
Yeah.
and light beams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
So I think
Yeah.
these 5 backstory questions are useful, and I know that you've
Okay.
written more, but I'll basically just
Okay.
read them, and then you can just give like the 1 or 2 sentence version.
yeah, I've got those ready. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like, where do you come from? I think you kind of just said that, from the
The
sun.
sun.
Why did you come to Earth?
Tradition. I was sent. Our people have always sent emissaries.
Why do you want to stay here for now, at least?
The sense of touch is absolutely amazing. We don't have it back home. And liquid water is just so fascinating.
Why do your people want you to come home?
To bring back the knowledge that I gained by being part of human culture.
All right. Why do you care about the team?
They don't think I'm too weird or dangerous or young. Everybody else in Halcyon City thinks I'm either too weird or too dangerous or too young.
I had another question, just based on some of your backstory stuff. Is are you needing to make regular reports to someone back home? How does that
Yeah,
work?
no. My report comes when I return and kind of merge back into Sun Dweller
Okay.
culture. That's how it happens.
Okay.
Um,
Well, but like, how long would that need to be before they would start feeling like you're taking too long?
the last three were on Earth for a couple of decades
Okay.
before their terms were over.
All right. I'm just sort of like, I'm just going to toss out as a seed to consider. I think that's fine, but it could also be, for example, that if you had to do some work from work style radio communications, and what did you learn today?
Well, see, that's the thing that the one of the things I wrote that's why Sunglass exists.
Okay.
Um, the previous of the three kind of superhero versions of the emissary, because we've always been here, but now we're superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
One of them did his term. The Golden Age version did his term and returned, and that's one of the reasons why I know things about Halcyon City, is because that one came back and I know what he brought back. But the Silver Age version sacrificed himself to defend Halcyon City from an alien invasion. And the second one decided that she liked it on Earth too much to go back, and has kind of vanished into the underworld, as it were, and just decided not to go back.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's I think we can have a kind of communication thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's more like what we're giving is more, because the actual value of the information that Flair has is the memories and experience.
Okay.
That's the important thing. The reports are like, that's good, we're glad you're doing this, but that, I couldn't just send off a big report and then not be and then be out from under the expectation that I would return someday.
Okay.
So we can have that. I mean,
Sure.
it's
No,
certainly,
no. So we can talk more about it, but
Yeah.
that's fine. I just kind of wanted to probe that area.
Yeah.
Okay. And what moves did you choose?
I chose alien tech. When you alter a human device with your alien technology, roll plus freak. On a hit, you create a device that can do something impossible once and then fizzle. And this comes from one of the things that kind of like, how does a plasma being exist on Earth? Well, Flair has these metal bands that he wears that kind of contain his plasma body in a kind of a suit. And so actually, the body that you see is just what those bands project, rather than his true self, which is inside it.
Mm-hmm.
And he has the moves alien ways. Whenever you openly disregard or undermine an important Earth custom in favor of one of your own people's customs, shift superior up and any other label down. And I took the best of them. When you comfort or support someone by telling them how they exemplify the best parts of Earth, roll plus freak instead of plus mundane.
All right. Great. And so we don't necessarily need to read all of this stuff, but one of the things that's notable for all of you when you're picking your playbook is that every playbook has their own moment of truth, which is something you can't do until you have done an advancement where you specifically choose to unlock it. But then once it's been unlocked, this is basically a thing that you could use like just once to say, like, in this particular specific circumstance, you have your moment of truth where you basically just get to take over the narrative for like the duration of that scene. So whatever is happening now, you have your big moment of truth where you just get to take over the story. And then you can actually potentially unlock it a second time with another advancement, but that's sort of just like a big deal thing that would be like highlight of a campaign sort of thing. And then everyone has team moves where they're all either when you share a triumphant celebration with someone or when you share a vulnerability or weakness with someone, each playbook has slight different variations on that stuff. And then there's that 5-box potential track. Every time you get a miss on a move, you're going to mark potential. There are a couple of other reasons why you might mark potential too that are brought up specifically on certain things. But by and large, when you fill that 5-box track, then you get to choose one of those advancements. And so that's how that works. And then for those of you who are still kind of reading through this, the book has some great stuff following each playbook where it just talks about the themes that the different playbooks can do and tips for how to use their moves most effectively. So, Flair, the outsider. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
I am playing Kiri. And she is the beacon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. Beacon is a playbook that specifically does not have any major powers.
Yeah, like no superpowers, right? So this is
Yeah.
like Batman, Hawkeye.
Yeah.
You know.
Honestly, I would consider Batman to be have enough toys that it would count as a.
Well, but specifically though, the toys are what it is, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
the point is that you can play a character that has those toys, and the idea is like as long as you have them, then great. But
Yeah.
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 Black Widow might be another good
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My my
what
Label?
abilities? Oh yeah, what abilities did you choose?
oh
Because you don't have powers, but you still have
Oh.
like abilities. If you have superpowers, they're pretty minor or not noticeable.
Yeah.
If you have skills, you carry the necessary equipment. Choose 2, and it has 6 things to choose from there.
So I'm thinking maybe not necessarily like martial arts, but like more like, kind of like boxing kind of thing.
Sure. Well, I mean that's still a martial art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then acrobatics.
Okay. Martial arts, acrobatics. Very nice. Okay. What about labels? Just say like highest and lowest, and which one did you modify?
I have 2 that are at +2 by default, Savior
Mm-hmm.
and Mundane,
Mhm.
and then 2 at -1, Danger and Freak, and I added 1 to Superior to make that 1.
Okay, great. So, the backstory questions. How did you gain your skills?
Kind of short answer is she's a country girl and has and wandered around, and when you're wandering around you gotta care for yourself and people around you, and that led to formal training for EMT certification, and
Okay. When did you first put on your costume?
so the jacket that she wears was gained or was gifted to her after the first incident with the team by a mysterious tailor known as the Needle, and who hoped that Kiri would eventually take on their retired title.
But they haven't done that yet. So Curie is not that retired title, or
No.
Okay, yeah. And Curie is I know this, but Curie is the superhero name, not necessarily
Kiri
the person's name.
it's her superhero name.
All right. And so, and again, there is a specific playbook that is all about having a secret identity. That does not mean that if you're not that playbook that you can't have one, but it's going to be it'll be less of a factor than like if you're that playbook, then like all your stuff is kind of going to revolve around that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but you can have that. And then, so who outside of the team thinks you shouldn't be a superhero?
A rather disagreeable stepmother who has opinions on how a lady should act, as if she'd drag her and her father to this crazy place.
All right. why do you try to be a hero?
From the first time setting a broken bone, I've always wanted to make a difference, and this city happens to be the perfect place for plenty of opportunities to do just that.
Okay. Why do you care about the team?
When a young person such as myself is torn from the familiar and quiet country and tossed into the urban chaos of the city, you tend to bond quickly with those who strike balances between things that were and things to come. My team is just that.
All right. Very nice. And what moves did you choose? Or have you chosen them? Do we
I chose straight up creeping, which basically is like I roll mundane to
Yeah,
uh,
it's a special sort of survey, the like doing recon,
yeah.
finding
And
stuff out. Yeah.
one of the options is uh, ah, what here is worth grabbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. So
And
like yeah, go ahead.
the other is suck it to Michigan. I think that's how it's pronounced. When you stand strong while dramatically under fire, roll plus savior instead of direct danger to directly engage a threat.
Yeah, that is a reference that I'm actually not sure I recognize either. The
Okay.
Suck it Domitian.
Yeah.
It seems like that would be yeah, I'm not sure what that comes from. Somebody probably knows.
Yeah.
But in any case, okay, great.
Let us know.
Yeah. Oh, one of the things that this is I can't believe I didn't get into this. We'll have to circle back to do this for Flare. But another special thing for the beacon is that you have this drives list. And so this is a list of a whole bunch of different things. There's like 25 of them or something like that. Where what you always are going to do is at the start of play, you're going to pick 4 of those. And these are things like kiss someone dangerous, save a teammate's life, get a new hero costume, or these things, right? Like, and so
I've chosen mine.
okay, well, but so that's good. But what I was going to say is, it is expected that you're going to be working towards those, right? And then when you have done all of those things, you mark 4 new ones. But specifically, when you fulfill one of the ones that you have chosen, you strike it out and you choose one. You can either mark potential, clear a condition, or take influence over someone involved. And this is something only the beacon does. That's not to say other people might not have drives, but this is a special mechanic just for the beacon. Okay, great. But let's just jump back to the outsider, because I think the outsider has a.
Yeah.
Scrolling back to it now. Yeah, actually, outsider is a little different. A lot of them do have another playbook specific move, but what you have is you choose 3 from the broader list instead of choose 2 from a list, and then you have this one. All right, so never mind. I didn't miss anything. I just didn't. Oh, okay, that's great. So we've got Flare and Curie, who would like to go next.
Okay, I'll
Yeah,
go. Why not?
well, Lee's starting to talk, but she's
No,
So-
go ahead. Go ahead,
Okay,
Paul.
Okay,
You got it.
great.
You sure?
Yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, so the playbook I picked is the Nova.
All right.
My hero name is Antares. His real name is Jonathan Pierce. He's a young male teenage kid with, the typical one, typical you might find in the city, except he has glowing skin and has cosmic superpowers. So the abilities he took was cosmic energies.
Okay.
So I start off with +1 danger, +2 freak, 0 savior, 0 superior, -1 mundane. I bumped up danger to +2 because I'm kind of seeing him as someone who's he thinks he needs to manage his powers or else they will go rogue on him. So when did I first use my powers? Age 9 on a camping trip to Masaba National Park. Yes, I've just invented a national park for the
Sure.
US.
Hey.
Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I accidentally hurt my friend Anthony when my powers finally went off and I accidentally knocked down a tree limb and hit him in the leg with it. It's like
Mm.
we were both surprised. Like, I'm suddenly a superhero. Who helps me control my powers? That would be my mother, Clarissa. My father is an international high flying banker and lawyer, and he's usually away, so I bonded strongly with her. Dad wasn't camping with us. Mom took us camping, so mom saw it. So I got a strong bond with my mother, and my rich father is, well, he's
Hmm.
usually out of the country. Why should I use the powers? But like I explained, Jonathan has this idea that if he doesn't use his powers in a controlled manner, they're gonna go. He's not going to be able to control them. They're going to explosively happen if he doesn't actually use them, manage, and actually let off the steam, as it were. I was kind, as it says in the book, one of the inspirations for this is kind of like Jean Grey, and I'm thinking Jean Grey is as far as the earlier X-Men movies, where she's kind of managing herself because she could go Phoenix at any time, and so she's trying. So Jonathan's kind of in that mode, trying to. He's got really strong powers, but he doesn't want to hurt people or hurt or destroy the world in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Well,
kind of
so
how I've seen
what
it.
I was going to specifically ask though, that like, is he right about that? Which, or is
I
that
have not decided.
okay?
I,
So,
th-
and
I
that's something we
his
can
belief,
explore
yeah.
too, because, but I think it can also be the sort of thing, because we're all, none of us are actually teenagers, right? So
Right.
I think part of the fun here will sometimes be the dramatic irony of what does the teenager think versus what we think is really
Yeah,
happening, right?
I want to leave that ambiguous for the moment.
Yeah, sure. That last one is, why do you care about the team?
Because he kind of sees the team in his own eyes, trying to do better by Halcyon City, and he thinks they get him in what he was and what he's trying to do. He's usually kind of locked down. He's not going to admit it, but he thinks that the rest of the team kind of understands his deal. So he cares about the team, and he's going to stand by the team because he thinks they get him.
Okay.
Thinks. He's not sure. He's a teenager.
You mentioned glowing skin. Is it always glowing, or is it just like when
Just,
he's charging
just,
himself up?
yeah, just when the burn comes up. Yeah, then
Okay.
it starts glowing.
Great, great. And so for the when it comes to moves, the Nova is also a little different in the sense that you have basically one sort of primary move, which is called burn, where you're going to roll based on how many conditions you have marked, meaning
Yeah.
like the more conditions you have, the more it's going to be higher. Because on a hit, you hold 3 burn. On 7 to 9, mark and condition. On a miss, you hold 2 burn and mark 3 conditions.
Yeah, he
So,
gets
like,
beat
charging up the powers
charge
is
up.
like a not, that you don't do that over like, oh, you spilled your milk. You do that over like when it's a big deal, right?
Right.
Notably, too, you can do lots of things. You have your cosmic energy powers without charging up the burn, right? Like this is like the special move, not just
Right.
normal running around. But then once you are you choose 4 flares from a list.
Right. And I picked Reality Storm. You can channel Destructive Burst with your powers. Spend 1 burn to directly engage a threat using powers, using freak instead of danger. If you do, you will cause unwanted collateral damage unless you spend another burn. So yeah, again, that trying to keep things under control thing.
Yeah.
Shielding, you call it a fast protective shield to stop a danger. Spend 1 burn to defend somebody else from a threat. I was kind of I was thinking a lot about Jean Grey, except cosmic energy rather than psionics. So elemental awareness, spend 1 burn and marking condition to open your mind up to the world around you with your powers. You can ask anyone a question about the world and the GM will answer honestly. I kind of thought of the psychic maelstrom from other Apocalypse World games as like this cosmic power of his kind of taps into the quantum reality. So he could open up and get information out of it if he dares. And move, spend 1 burn to move to any place you use within the sea, breaking through or slipping past any barriers or restraints in your way. Spend a 2nd burn to move any place you've previously been kind of like when he wants to move, he can move with damaging consequences of speeding across. So
fantastic. Okay. Antares was the
And so and Taurus is a red supergiant that sometime in the next few million years is going to go supernova.
Hmm.
So his name is very meaningful to him.
Very cool. Okay. Lee, it sounded like you were the one that almost went instead of Paul. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
All right. I'm playing the bull. Her name is Marsha Walters, aka Mayhem.
Mhm.
She's white but really tanned because she spends a lot of time outside. But she wears, casual clothes. She doesn't have a super suit. I think the closest she gets to super suit is multiple belts on her pants. That's pretty much it. She doesn't bother with costumes.
I have a
Um,
question about that, which is
yeah.
just when you're doing superheroic stuff without a super suit, you got to be going through a lot of clothes pretty fast, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she does.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna say the answer to that question is yes.
Okay, well,
that's what secondhand and thrift stores are for.
check mark for something that will be happening in game. So just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So
At least she doesn't hulk out and have to lose her pants or something.
gotta
She says
condition.
trying not to feed the GM ideas. No, but yeah, her name is Mayhem,
Mm-hmm.
and so as the bull, her highest
Well, how about abilities?
abilities,
Labels?
labels.
Okay, no, I'm saying abilities before
Oh, okay.
labels.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
abilities, she's just super strong, super tough, and ungodly good at fighting with her fists.
Mhm.
She doesn't really use weapons. She's more of a up in your face kind of person.
So it says decide how each of those abilities manifests, and it's basically just suggesting that like it could be something that is more elaborate than just literally she looks like how she looks, but when she punches, she can punch a truck across town, right?
Yeah.
Like it's but is that kind of what you have in mind, or?
I kind of have in mind that she does look just perfectly normal, but she does have that super strength.
Okay.
And it just that's the way
Luke Cage style.
One Punch Man style.
One Punch Man has a costume.
Yeah, I know. Nona Olivia is trying to convince her that she does in fact need a costume. It's just she hasn't agreed yet.
So yeah. So
Um,
we'll learn about her in just a moment.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
You're like Jessica Jones.
yeah.
Yeah, but labels, her highest is danger, and her lowest is mundane, and I put my additional point into savior to bring it up to 0.
Okay.
Um,
So who changed you?
Dr. Apogee.
Dr. Apogee.
Supervillain.
Yeah.
Mad
Yes.
scientist. Lee and I have discussed this some. That's why I know these things
Aha.
already.
I see.
Yes. How did you escape from them?
I punched everything until I got out.
I like you.
Classic. Yeah. So who outside the team tries to take care of you now?
Yeah, and that's Nona Olivia. She's a little Italian grandmother.
Aw.
And she just keeps trying to feed me, and she thinks I'm a precious cinnamon roll, and I have no idea why.
I'm just gonna give some praise to the writers of the game of just I love that the way they phrased it is who outside the team tries to take care of you now.
I love Nona
Yeah.
Olivia.
All right.
Yeah,
Why?
she is a sweetheart.
Yeah.
For the image in your head, just imagine that little old lady talking to Bob Parr at the beginning of The Incredibles when he's trying to be an insurance adjuster.
I'm on a fixed income.
Just little and tiny and
Yeah.
cute.
All right. Why do you try to be a hero?
Spite.
Is Dr. Apogee still out there?
Yes.
Okay.
Just
good to
because
know.
I punched him doesn't mean he stayed down.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Why do you care about the team?
because I'm just here for the trouble you guys cause, because it's fun.
Okay. What about moves?
All right. I picked two, and I think they're actually passive moves.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. So the first one is thick and thin skin. Whenever you have angry marked, take +1 to unleash your powers.
Yeah. +1 ongoing means that like as long as angry is marked, anytime you do that unleash your powers, you get the +1.
Okay.
And
Don't
so
make him angry.
Yeah.
well, her in this case, right?
Yeah, don't,
Yeah.
he'll-
Yeah. So
don't
and
shoot her.
then-
Yes.
You'll only make her angry.
Yes. And then what else?
I picked punch everyone. Whenever you charge into a fight without hedging your bets, you can shift your danger up and any other label down.
And then the bull has a special unique move too that is really interesting. It's called the bull's heart. You always have exactly one love and one rival. You can change your love or rival at any time. Give the new subject of your affections or disdain influence over you, and then take +1 ongoing to any action that impresses your love or frustrates your rival.
Yes.
And the book is very clear. You can change them at any time, anytime you want. But of course, you choose to give influence to any new character that you might do that. So that's potentially, like opening yourself up a little bit. But
Yeah.
but that said, like
This
you
is
get
the reason
special-
this is the reason I chose this character sheet.
Oh yeah, speak on that.
I loved this idea of just having this really, really super physically powerful person who is just kind of pulled one way or another by their emotions, whether that was the frustration of trying to match up to a rival, or trying to impress or get the attention of someone that they love. I loved that mechanic. I thought that was awesome,
Great.
and I'm looking forward to playing with it.
So then you need to choose a role that's like an extra special thing that you can do with your love or rival. Which one of those did you pick?
I have not, because I don't know who is going to fill those roles.
Well, no. So
yeah.
you don't know who it's going to be. It will literally change from scene to scene. That is how this playbook is designed, is that when it says you can change your love or rival at any time, what that means is if the person you previously had as your love is not in a fight, but you there's someone else there that you want to impress and you want to have that benefit from, you assign them as your love. You're changing them constantly.
Oh.
Like the playbook is explicit about this. It says you can notes on your moves and extras. You can change the subjects of the bull's heart pretty easily, which lets you make sure it's always pointed at characters you're interested in engaging. Do that all the time. Even switching your rival to your love and vice versa is a good choice to keep things fresh and interesting. And so basically, your biggest asset in playing your bull is the core move, the bull's heart. It's your way of signaling to yourself and the whole table that you're interested in scenes with particular characters. Pay attention to it and try to get those bonuses as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that means is you don't have to know now who you're going to assign now, although we'll probably do that shortly. But at the same time, the point is it's going to be changing anytime you want it to change.
Okay. I think probably definitely is going to be the defender.
Okay.
Um,
When you leap to defend your love or rival in battle, you roll plus danger instead of plus savior to defend them.
yeah.
Okay.
And I think right now Enabler looks fun.
Mm-hmm.
When you provoke your love or rival, roll plus danger if you're trying to provoke them to rash or poorly thought out action.
Mm-hmm.
Except that I remember that I did this with Clem before, and it did not work out well. Um,
Or did it?
oh no, it didn't. It didn't. It worked out horribly. So let's see. Let's see. Friend, when you comfort or support your love or rival, mark potential on a hit. When your love or that or rival comforts or supports you, mark potential when they roll a hit.
Right. So the potential
Yeah.
is, as we've discussed, you have that 5-box track, and when it fills, you get an
Yeah.
advancement. So you can roll
Yeah.
that not just when you get misses, but on those other circumstances as well.
Yeah. You always let that. All right. All right. I'm gonna do those first two, and we'll see how that
No,
works
no,
out.
you
And
you
maybe
you pick one.
oh, you pick one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with defender right now.
Okay, yeah. So defender is that role. So basically, you get the +1 ongoing to any action to impress your love or frustrate your rival, whoever that might be in a given moment, and then you have that extra bonus that if you want to defend either of them, you can do it with your danger stat instead of your
Yep.
savior.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so Jason, have you chosen a playbook?
Yes. I am going to go with the legacy.
Uh-huh. The legacy.
The legacy.
that
Yeah,
I've
so,
been-
yeah, you are the latest in a storied heroic lineage, a family that shares a name and a cause. Now everybody is watching and waiting to see if you've got what it takes to uphold that tradition. No pressure, right?
And so that his name is Ethan Steele.
Ethan Steele.
And he is known as the Long Arm Vanguard. He is one of the members of the Mystic Marksman. See,
Ooh.
I was sitting here thinking, what would have happened if Captain America and Bucky had been a team, but in the 1960s Batman show? And so now I'm just like, it's the Mystic Marksman. And then like
Wait, so what is your hero name?
Long Arm Vanguard. And
Okay.
he is and they call him Vanguard for short because he likes to pretend.
All right. I'm going to put Vanguard on your little name tag.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so that is your name. What do they look like?
He is. He's a bigger dude. He's like 6'1", 6'1", kind of a stockier guy, but he's basically he's not finesseful at all. He's not going to be flipping. He's not going to be trying to dodge anything. He knows he's large and he can take up some space, and that's what he's really good at.
All right.
Yeah. The lovable hunk.
Sure. So for abilities, you have powers that match your general line. Choose one suite of powers, but pick 2 powers that you don't have from your suite. So like there's several different little like lists to choose from, but whichever one you pick, either you need to you don't get all of them. You get all but 2 from whatever list you choose.
Okay.
So for example, the first one is super strength, invincibility, eye beams, flight, super senses. You don't get all 5 of those, you get 3 of them. Right? So but you can choose any of those lists.
Okay.
And the idea too is that these are the same general powers that your, the rest of your superhero lineage has.
Right. So then I'll go with I guess we'll go with the first one, the super strength, invincibility, and flight. But he does not have eye beams and he cannot fly.
Okay. I think that leaves Flair as the only one that can fly on the team. Interesting. Just because several playbooks theoretically have it available, but only if you go that way. But all right, cool. Fun. So you so you have super strength, invincibility, super senses. Great. What about your labels? So by default, savior is highest and danger is lowest. But which one are you adding a +1 to?
We'll go with Freak.
Okay. All right. Great. And so, backstory questions. When did you officially become a part of your legacy?
It's based on when our powers manifest. So once we start showing the signs is when they bring us in and they take us on our first mission.
Okay. How long ago was that for you?
Oh, it wasn't too long ago actually. It was only about a year ago.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm still trying to get. I'm still.
How old is your character? That's something I really probably should have asked everybody.
I think he's probably like, I don't know, like 19, 20.
Okay.
He was a late bloomer.
Uh-huh. Okay. What is the greatest accomplishment of your legacy?
Ooh. They were a part of a major superhero kind of like alliance where they were the key team to defeat a big bad.
Okay.
And and to be fair, they lost some members of their original team, as it were,
Okay.
in the process.
Something that I'm going to ask you to do as homework is tell me who that big bad was. Also, give me the names of the like everyone else in the legacy. So you don't have to do that right this second if you don't have them handy, but that will be an assignment.
Yeah, I got him. I've got him.
Great. Oh, okay. So
Yeah. So this teenage thing is going really far with you assigning homework.
If we're talking about age,
mhm.
Yeah.
Flair is 18 months. That
Yeah.
was when her current physical body was created,
Mhm.
and has access to memories and experiences that are 14,000 years.
Very nice. Excellent. How about Curie?
I think Curie is 18.
Okay. Mayhem, Antares?
I think Mayhem is probably between 17 and 18, somewhere around in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Centaurus is about the same age. He's
Okay.
had his powers for a few years, but he's not an adult yet.
Sure. All right. So jumping back to Vanguard, how does the public perceive your legacy?
It's pretty favorable with like the older crowd, like who likes the older superheroes,
Mhm.
like not necessarily like your grandpappy talks about the mystic marksman a lot, whereas the younger people are like, okay, that's cool or whatever, but like they don't fly, like none of them fly. Like that dude like goes through walls and shoots laser beams. He's like strong and stuff, I guess. That's cool.
So,
He doesn't
so
look
there's
like
maybe
green.
a sense that like whoever the most recent installation of your legacy was not as impressive.
It's actually actually what it is they're really flashy. Like they are actually everyone's like, well, why can't the rest of them be like her?
Okay. So, is there a sense of like, the most recent, like is it your parent?
So
Is this a family line thing, or how does that work?
it is. Oh, I mean, how do they become a member of the legacy?
Well, I'm saying like, so who
Yes,
was
yeah,
the
yeah, they're
previous
all
member?
family.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, it's like, was
It's a
the
cousin.
previous so the previous one was your cousin? Like how
Yeah,
many? Like okay, so is this is there like a large number of them?
Yes, there's a significant number. There's 3 founding members, but they did incorporate more family as they got as more
It's
people distributed powers.
it's like the Marvels.
Okay,
There's
Uh-huh.
just another one and another one and another one.
all right, cool. That opens up the possibility of there being like sibling and or cousin rivalry stuff.
Oh yeah.
Family
Alright,
reunions are a
yeah.
blast.
Yeah, the family reunion episode I'm looking forward to.
Okay. So maybe to some extent, the public perception of the legacy is a little bit diffuse, just because there's kind of so many different heroes that are like theoretically part of it.
Yeah, it's like, what would happen if the Justice League retired?
How does your legacy tie into your reasons for being a hero?
Because it matters to me, but also like being one of the youngest, I feel bad when people are like, yeah, you guys are kind of old fashioned, like you got to come into the new age. I'm like, but we can still be heroes, man. Like what I'm saying? We're doing this thing. I want to prove that we're still a viable team of superheroes.
All
You know what
right.
I'm saying? Like just because we're not the newest video card doesn't mean we still can't play video games, guys.
So, all right. So here's part of what we're going to need to work with a little bit too, is that we don't have Millie here. Now we have a little bit of what she said she was kind of imagining, which was that she would be playing the Scion playbook, which is in some ways the dark counterpart of the Legacy playbook, because she is literally the kid of some famous supervillain, is the idea. But I believe that what she has envisioned here is that she is actually from some kind of other reality, or like even like a fantasy dimension or something like that, where her parent is the evil overlord, and so she has come to our world like to train in preparation for defeating them. Now, some of that we might evolve, because I'm going to encourage her to think of ways that that evil overlord would actually have some sort of a notoriety or influence or interaction with our world as well, and not just be something that nobody here has ever heard of. But we'll need to figure out kind of what are the details of that. But so and she's got a name for Ilanil, it looks like. So I think that's kind of as a general idea, and I wanted to bring that up, even though we won't have the ability to go through her playbook in full detail right now, because next we're going to start talking about relationships, and this is something that we'll want to I want to encourage everybody to think about who is going to be the person that goes, you have on your playbook 2 different relationship things with a blank, and you need to decide who goes in there. But what I also want to just toss out here when it comes to Millie's character, one of the things that we touched on as a possibility before we started recording, and one of the things that we're going to do in a moment, is we're going to decide how the team came together. And one of the things that we talked about maybe doing is that Millie's character, because she's not here right now, could potentially be a new character who has just shown up. Like, so the team has already formed without her character, but then she'll show up and become part of the team. That was an option. How do people feel about that? Because the alternative, of course, is that we just figure out a way to have her onto the team, and we'll communicate offline, obviously, to get that incorporated. But how do people feel about that approach generally?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Okay.
it's a good opening episode.
Sure. Yeah.
especially if
Yeah, yeah.
especially if I, like her evil overlord parent or whatever is that,
Sent a retrieval team.
Mhm.
yeah, has something to do with the
Yeah.
situation.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think then that what maybe makes sense is when we're going to go through relationships right now, we're doing it with the 5 characters that we've got, but that we will potentially explore
I mean,
revisiting that.
the relationships that you start with aren't the only relationships
Right.
you can have.
It's
Right.
it's really just designed to kind of start thinking about
Yeah.
having connections to other characters, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going through them in alphabetical order here, with the beacon is first. So your first relationship for Curie is blank is awesome, and you take every chance you get to hang out with them.
I think mayhem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And you've got to prove yourself to blank before you feel like a real hero.
I think Vanguard.
That
Because,
makes- yeah.
Vanguard, it's a lakes. Got to prove myself
Got
to
the
the.
built-in rep, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So for the bull in the relationships, you are choosing your opening gambit for who is your love and who is your rival.
Yeah.
So blank is your love. You've opened up to them about the worst parts of your past.
Okay. Hmm. I think I'm gonna have to put Vanguard in there.
Okay. All right.
Popular guy.
Sure. And then
Yeah.
blank is your rival. They tried to control you at a crucial moment.
I'm gonna put Antares in there.
Okay.
Let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
This is going to change on a
Oh yeah, I know. but
scene
sure,
by
move on.
scene basis.
Mhm. All right. So for the legacy, you once got caught doing something that shames your legacy with blank.
I do it Nova.
Is that Antares?
Antares.
Yeah.
Antares.
Okay. So we don't necessarily have to decide exactly what it was right now, unless you want to.
It could be like the cheese incident.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no.
It's something
No,
we always
no,
talk
Jesus,
about
no.
and never put details on.
It's not Nobilis, what's your character's name?
Flair.
Flair.
So yeah, no, not Antares. It's not Antares. It's Flair. And they
Uh-oh.
caught me having you take me around flying.
Sure. Sure.
All right. And then you trust blank and told them an important secret of your legacy.
Now that is you,
Antares.
Antares.
Okay, I can get along with that.
Do you know what the secret is?
Yes. That the big bad that we defeated was
Mhm.
actually the member of our team that we lost. One of the founding members.
Oh wow.
Yes. The right he was known as the Revenant. And he went bad and really bad. So in the end of it all, they just said he was KIA, not that to reveal that he was the big bad.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay.
Oh wow. That's heavy to stick on me. I'll take
Yeah.
it.
All right. So
I'll take that burden.
and so you're not off the hook yet either, Antares, because now it's your turn. So
Yeah.
you hang out all the time with blank to blow off steam.
Oh, because we're rivals, it's got to be Mayhem because Mayhem can destroy things, and I can destroy things.
All right.
Yes.
Um,
Wonder Twin powers activate.
Exactly.
Interestingly enough, though, it's Vanguard is the one who's invincible. So like, there's still just like Mayhem can be hurt, very tough, but Anyway, the next one is you once hurt blank when you lost control of your powers.
It's got to be you,
Curie. Yeah.
Curie.
How,
Yeah.
Okay.
how do you spell Curie? There's so many different ways.
It's like Marie Curie.
C-U-R-I-E.
Okay, it's like Curie. Okay,
Like.
okay,
Yeah.
you're going for a
Madam Curie.
pun. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I-
That makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
You're the vulnerable one, and I am the very possibly loose cannon.
Hmm. All right. The outsider,
Okay.
Flair. You've been learning about Earth by spending time with blank.
Curie. Curie is the most mundane of us. That makes sense to be the one to choose.
Okay. and you have a crush on blank, but you keep it under wraps.
Mayhem.
Boy. Yeah, because basically, I'm saying Yuri also has a crush.
Okay.
This is rapidly turning into a reverse harem.
Nope, 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 nope.
Well, I mean, in all of the harem anime, the center of it does not want to be the focus of it. That's part of the genre that you can't escape it.
Of a harem thing and more just general teenagers.
That too.
All right, so we're going to go to the influence now, and we're going to go back through in reverse order. So we're doing
Okay.
outsider again. So choose your demeanor. Are you haughty or cheerful?
I am cheerful, so
I-
everybody gets influence.
Yeah. So yeah, that what that means is all of you on your sheet, all of you have influence over Flair.
Flair.
As we touched on already, for all of you, by default, all adults have influence over you. But then we'll make that more specific as you might, reject some, for example. But then, keep track of whether you have influence or not on a given character. For Antares, you need to choose your demeanor. Have you got a happy facade or are you locked down?
Locked down.
Okay, if you're locked down, you choose one teammate to give influence to.
I'm going to pick Curie.
Okay, Curie has influence over Antares. Okay. Legacy, Vanguard. You're part of this team for better or worse, and you care what they think. Give influence to all of your teammates. Which, just because that's specifically to all of your teammates, it does raise the idea that for the outsider, give everyone influence over you. So I think that means that, like, literally anyone, not just your teammates. That's good to clarify. Okay. And then scrolling back up to the bull. Influence. You have. You're selective about who you let in. Give your love and your rival influence over you, but that's it.
So right now that's Vanguard and Antares.
Yep.
But every time you switch it up, you will be giving the new people all influence also.
Now, when she switches it up, does the influence of the previous ones go away?
I think that it does not.
hangs around,
I think
okay.
it hangs around.
Until it's
I think that's
rejected
more
or
So
interesting.
spent, yeah.
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 So for the beacon, you are so excited to be here. Give influence over you to 3 of your teammates.
I think Antares, Mayhem, and Vanguard.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So now we're going to do when our team first came together. Now, each of you have a question on your playbook for that, but the GM, I have instructions that I am supposed to ask those questions in a certain order. And I think they're designed to kind of build on each other, I guess. So what that means is the first one is this is now this is how did the team first come together, and we're going to start with the bull. We defeated a dangerous enemy. Who or what was it?
Can I dip in my backstory?
Yeah.
Cleosmactra. Cleosmactra is the head henchwoman of Dr. Apogee. And I just gotta point this out. The fantasy name generator under roller derby is absolutely brilliant for henchwomen names.
Cleos.
I saw that and I immediately
Wow.
texted Christiana. It's like, I don't care. You just
Mhm.
have to see this just for the amusement factor.
Okay.
Cleospectra.
So, on that, so for her, because you have a connection with her,
Mhm.
was this them trying to get you back? Like, so here's a question. How recent was your escape at this point? Like, had it just happened, or was this like them coming after you again later?
I think this was them coming after me again later. I
Okay.
think I had been out for like 1 or 2 months by this point,
Okay.
but it wasn't.
All right.
I wasn't fresh off the boat, but I was still. They were still a really, really going concern.
Mhm. All right. So the next question goes to the Nova. We
Mhm.
destroyed our surroundings in the fight. Where was it, and what did we destroy?
We were in Halcyon City Harbor, and we destroyed the 150-year-old tall ship Perseus. I mean, we're going with the whole Boston
Mhm.
vibe here.
Yes.
So I had to, like, as soon as it was like, I looked at that question like, oh, I know exactly what we're going to destroy. So yes, this beautiful, still working relic.
I
tall
love
ship.
Nobilis's face.
Mhm. My goodness, yes, that's
Yeah.
alarming. Okay, so the next question goes to the outsider. We didn't trust each other at first, but that changed. How? Why?
Ah. Um, when I shapeshifted into the Perseus in order to conceal the destruction long enough to straighten things out.
Okay. Well, but that is how so
I
like
mean,
say more
so
about
like
how
I I I I I I saved everybody's like reputational bacon by pretending to be the Perseus for a couple of weeks.
Wow. We owe you big.
Yeah. And we
Um,
snuck down at like 3 a.m. and
gathered up
you
all
know
the
brought you.
pieces and
long enough for it to seem like it got destroyed some other way.
yeah. Next time there's a superhero fight,
And so like it sounds
Yeah.
like this sort of first like we are a group, we trust each other might actually just be none of us can ever tell that we destroyed the
That's the
Perseus.
real story. Yeah.
Oh, I
Um,
like
Great
that's-
friendships are built upon a foundation of mutually assured destruction.
We
That's
split
fun.
6 ships, and this ship will float forever.
All right. Okay, fantastic. So next is Legacy. All things considered, we did well and impressed an established hero. Who was it?
Hmm. Their name is. Let's see.
I have an idea.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The bosun.
The bosun.
But the one person we weren't able to fool with the
Shape-shifting.
switch. But
A nautical themed hero.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, that's fun. All right. So is that your what you're
Yeah.
going with? All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, so last amongst our current five, the Beacon, we found signs that this incident was just the start of something bigger. What were the signs?
I think off of you know, I don't. I imagine we probably just drove off Cleosmactra instead of beating her completely.
Hmm.
And as she fled, she dropped a like some a some sort of thing that some sort of communicator that had signs, and I think like there's it was languages we couldn't understand, but had a symbol that I think links to Millie's character.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would track for Dr. Apogee.
I like that. I like that. So that means that potentially when we play out Millie's character's arrival, you all might be on the scene because you're specifically trying to follow up on that lead.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so what we have to do a little bit of world building for now too is all of you chose to be like between 17 19, right? So you're all relatively old enough that it kind of makes sense that at least in theory you could live somewhere without adult supervision. But that doesn't mean you definitely do. I think what we have to decide is what is your team name and what is your headquarters? And following up from headquarters, like how many of you actually live there versus travel there to like join up with team stuff versus like as opposed to living somewhere else?
I want to say that Kiri does not live at the headquarters. She hasn't yet been able to essentially break away from her family in any permanent manner.
Okay. So just for my own use, is that something like a development you would want to pursue in the storytelling?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So what that means is that I will probably highlight some of the difficulties that revolve around you not being on site.
Okay.
Okay. Does everyone else, anyone else want to say you live somewhere other than a headquarters?
I was gonna say,
Flair absolutely lives at the headquarters. It's the coolest thing ever. But I think it's somewhere near the water because the water is just so cool.
This water is
Yeah.
so alien too. Yeah.
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 Flair goes swimming just like on a. But when Flair goes swimming, it's not so much swimming as flying underwater.
I bet there's a plume of steam following him every time.
Now, Flair has a great deal of control over exterior body temperature. It doesn't necessarily have to happen. Probably does sometimes, but
Oh gosh, I've just gotten the greatest image.
What?
Flair swimming out in the Atlantic Ocean and kicking up a wake with dolphins like behind her, and she thinks that that's the greatest thing ever.
Nice. Okay. What about Vanguard? Do you live at the team headquarters?
yeah, he does. He does. He finds it like for him, it's like almost like going to not like school, but like basically it's like a sign that he's moving up in this whole superhero thing.
Okay.
He's like, I'm a part of a team now. I've got we've got like a headquarters and stuff.
Great.
Yeah,
Antares?
I think-
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think Mayhem does live at the headquarters just because, I mean, she met these guys because they were coming after her, and she doesn't.
Yeah.
She's not actually cruel enough to want to put anybody else in harm's way. But she does make like Saturday afternoon trips to visit Nonna Gina so that she can get poked in Italian grandma at.
Nana Olivia.
Nonna
No.
Olivia.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nonna
That's all
Olivia.
That's okay, darling. You can call me Gina if you want. What about Antares?
Antares is kind of the reverse. He kind of spends long weekends at the headquarters, but otherwise still lives in his parents' relatively affluent place. So
Okay.
because you're not a young adult yet, young man. So
Sure.
sort of thing. And he
okay.
does listen to his mom.
So, do you all have like special communicators or something where you can Like, send out the call when you need to assemble for something?
Encrypted cell phone apps.
Oh,
Yeah.
come on. Let's get a cool talkie watch. Let's get a smartwatch or like a shoe phone.
Well, see, here's the thing of Flair's relationship with technology is just like, oh, I need this thing. Yeah, here, let me grab this like metal pole, and it's does what he needs it to
Yeah.
do. So
Yeah, and if the self cell towers are down, then Flare can fly up and glow really bright. And we're like, oh yeah, that's the thing.
It's the
Okay.
flare.
It's the flare, yes, flare sign.
I'm
Flamboyant.
so describe this again. I was distracted.
Huh?
We were
I'm asking.
So-
So, did you decide on a communicator?
Well,
yeah, sure.
a few are like flare, like you said his brace armbands are his container, like they're technologically based, right? Nobilis?
I'm sorry. What? Say that again.
You said Flair's wristbands are technologically based to give him his shape.
Yeah. But they're weird solar technologies, so
Well, I mean that could be something that was also adapted to include a communicator.
sure. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And
So
the rest
communicator
of us
watches.
would have just
Yeah.
See, I was just envisioning like a pin or something.
Yeah, but I mean,
Oh,
smartwatches are a thing.
What I really
Yes, yes,
okay.
smart.
I don't know if you've ever seen there's an indie comic called Empowered, which is about this one superhero, and her suit. One of the powers of her suit is if she holds her hand up to her face like this, she can connect to the superhero team.
for Kiri,
That's
she
amazing.
has some eyebrow piercings, and one of those is actually a hidden communicator.
Well, I mean, I was assuming everyone has kind of like there's a team set
Seems-
that everyone
Well-
has, but
Well, I was saying like kind of wired in, like basically whatever hidden communicator that is wired into.
okay, well, you guys can have it be whatever you want. I'm just saying that there's probably
Yeah.
going to be times where not everybody's in the headquarters and you're going to need to go
Right.
somewhere together. How do you
Yeah.
figure that out? So you guys can have it be whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a special group communicator thing. It could be just calling each other on cell phones. But like you guys tell me what you want it to be.
I mean, yeah. What do
Yeah,
you?
Okay.
It be,
All
it
right,
be
all right.
phone like communicator. That's fine.
I mean, let's lean into the
Yeah.
superhero of
Yeah.
this, right?
Okay. Early on in our association, I'm kind of melding a bunch of things together. Flair saw this gesture as a phone call gesture, and gave everybody a ring that, when they do that, connects to the team channel.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
that
Now,
works.
okay, have you ever heard there's a material called kainite, which is found on metallic meteorites. And have you ever seen meteorites that have that really strange pattern of streaks that go like in 3 different directions? And make these they feel like iron, and they've got that kind of pattern on the ring.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay, great. What is the headquarters like, and or how do you have it?
Honestly, I like the idea of it being kind of almost like just a random basement in a building.
It's like an 11-year-old's like base. It's just this place that we go. It's not like Titan Tower or anything like that.
Sure.
No.
Yeah, anyway.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Antares
there's
has
I mean,
Maybe
opinions.
it's Vanguard's family basement.
I was just going to say, I think Vanguard as the legacy specifically
Yeah.
might have some pull
yeah,
to have
yeah.
the use of something a little fancier than if you were just trying to like say, what can you afford or where can you squat?
Yeah.
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 So what do you think, Jason?
Oh yeah. Listen, one because I was looking at the legacy. So the one of the things is a retired and quite judgmental member of the legacy,
Hmm.
and that's my grandpap Guardian. He's like one of the founders. He's crotchety and but he's also very very rich.
I was actually just thinking that we established that Antares' dad is rich as well,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think we can still go with you know,
Yeah.
the I think it makes sense that the legacy might have access to something.
Yeah.
Well, you could even say maybe not rich, but maybe he after he did superheroing for a while, he was the mayor or something for a while. He used it to become the mayor of the city for a while.
Hmm.
So he's well known and well connected, and because of that.
You know, that's a good
Yeah.
point. I think we didn't talk about this when we were talking about moves for the legacy, because you do have like this legacy where your legacy is an important part of Halcyon City. Name the different members of your legacy, at least two. And the choices are like, is blank is still active and prominent in the city, blank is retired and quite judgmental, blank is the next possible member of your legacy, blank is the greatest opponent your legacy ever faced and is still at large.
Yeah.
And whenever time passes, you're going to roll plus savior to see how the members of your legacy feel or react to your most recent exploits. And before rolling, ask the other players to answer these questions about your performance. Take -1 to the roll for each no answer. Have you been with upholding the traditions of your legacy? Have you maintained the image of your legacy? Have you made the other members of your legacy proud? So, on a hit, one of the members of your legacy offers you meaningful encouragement, an opportunity, or an advantage. Alternately, you could end up with one of them upset with your most recent actions and letting their displeasure known, or on a miss, something stirred up the hornet's nest. So,
Expect people members of your legacy to meddle with your life.
yeah. So,
Meddle-
so did you pick some names for those legacy
Yeah.
members?
So for the next possible one, my cousin is Tarot.
Okay.
And again, the retired and judgmental one is Guardian, and then the still active one is Arcana. That's yeah.
Great. But in any case, do we want to say that you have like the team's headquarters is something you all have access to via Vanguard's family legacy?
Yeah, it's one of their old abandoned original hideouts. Like if you go in, it's got some of that like 1960s yellow paint on the walls, and some of that wallpaper, really
Yeah, and
oddly shaped chairs.
and there's
Egg chairs. They have to be egg chairs.
yeah, and there's an old super vehicle in the corner that doesn't work and hasn't worked for as long as anybody's known it, and we're actually using it for something completely different. Like
It's just storage.
yeah, it's
We're using its sound system for
Yeah.
No.
And
We use it
the
as a
trunk has
very-
the snacks.
Yeah, we use it as a very large boombox.
That's fun. Okay. So where is it? Is it like
Ooh.
is it like
Yeah,
in a bigger building or?
It's a refitted warehouse near the water,
Okay.
like a waterfront warehouse.
Like Seaport.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And so it just like, is it obvious at all from the outside that it's a hero team headquarters, or is it secret?
Yeah, you know what? Do you guys want it to be? Because what we could have it, since it's old, we could have it have like a sign on it, but it's like flickering.
Well, okay.
One
It
of
is
those old
known.
marquees.
Yeah.
It is known that this had been a superhero hangout in the past
Mm-hmm.
because Vanguard,
Yeah.
you
Vanguard.
know, they were headquartered there. They moved out and it was empty, and so kind of dropped away from the public consciousness. So there are records that this place exists.
Locals
And
might know about it.
locals might know about it, but it hasn't got a reputation for us
Okay.
being there.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is
Kind of like the
absolute-
rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is why Grandpappy was like, you can take it. You can use that.
It's kind of like deciding to give the the kid the old car so
Yeah,
that the parents
yeah.
could get a new car.
That was my first car.
Yeah.
Oh man, that reminds me of
Ford Country Squire station wagon. It was the car we went on our big vacation with.
Chevy. No,
I just realized we didn't talk about your other moves either. Legacy Vanguard. Which legacy moves did you pick?
I picked where is it? I know what I am,
Okay.
and never give up, never surrender, because Chris Evans will always now have me think of that in any situation when he says, I can do this all day.
Sure. Or the actual direct inspiration of that specific quote from
Right.
Galaxy Quest, but still good. But so
I
I
think
know
that
what I
movie-
am is once per scene, when you defend a teammate, you can shift Savior up and another label down in addition to any other benefits from the move, even on a miss. And if you do, add one team to the pool. And never give up, never surrender. When you take a powerful blow from someone with far greater power than you, use this move instead of the basic move. And then you roll plus Savior, and then you get different options. Great. One of the things that you all might notice is that frequently there are moves related to letting you. So you might say, for example, well, my Savior is already my highest label. Am I going to use a move a lot that lets me raise it, even if I'm? But the point is, there's going to be lots of times in this game where NPCs are going to try to adjust your labels for you.
Right.
For example, one of the things that might happen is that if you all are going in to fight a supervillain, and the supervillain is an adult, they have influence over you, and they might
Oh.
look to you and say, "What are you doing, child? You don't belong here." And they might try to adjust your labels, right? And so that's going to happen. And so sometimes if you've had that happen once or twice, and now your Savior, which is your big stat, isn't as high as you want it to be. Yeah. So anytime labels are adjusted, it's always one up and one down equivalently.
Let's find out.
Okay, cool. I think we've got a lot of fun stuff here. I think that we'll probably be mentally filling out a lot of stuff about the headquarters as we go. We can maybe spend a little bit more time on that if folks want to right now. Like, it's warehouse. It's got sort of the like fading 60s vibe to it. It's got a garage with a vehicle that doesn't work. Is it otherwise just kind of like, converted bedrooms and any other special facilities?
I think it given how many fisticuffs based characters we've got banging around, I think that there's a sparring area
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
basically just cleared out and has some like extra metal plating on the walls and some concrete and sandbags
Sure.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
like a
and-
waterfront warehouse, you could have like the second floor where all the rooms and the kitchen and all that stuff is, and then the training areas downstairs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, and I think there's probably like weightlifting and stuff down there too.
Okay.
Just a place to keep physically fit.
Great stuff. So, what we'll be doing over the next couple of weeks in between the session is we'll first make sure that we get Millie's character made up. We'll be working with her and sort of make sure she's okay with this idea of her like coming in and becoming a part of the team as part of that first adventure. I suspect she'll be okay with it, but obviously it's the sort of thing that you proactively make sure works. But we'll be doing that, and then so we won't be playing next week, but the week after that, I hope we'll be back. Before we finish off for tonight, does anyone have any other questions or thoughts about our incipient campaign?
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, 'cause
I really am.
yeah, I look forward to it because I enjoy this this company's style of RPGs because I really enjoyed Root. Root was super fun.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
Well, keep in mind, it's not one company. I mean, Powered by the Apocalypse is one of those things that many different.
They're like a distribution.
Well, true, but
Yeah.
this one is actually the same one that did Root. It's Magpie Games, which also
Oh,
did Root. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yep.
But yes, Powered by the Apocalypse as a system, there's more than one company that makes those. Yep. But all right.
I'm liking the tweaks they made to the system for this thing. It's very. I like that a lot. I'm looking forward to this. I'm hoping we can play it long enough for this stuff to really start to bite.
I hope
Yeah.
so. Obviously, I think the only reason we wouldn't is if just for some reason just we're really not having fun with it, which I don't expect to be a problem. All right, great. We'll have to just wait. Oh, one last thing that I'll just kind of mention, and this is something that the book explicitly encourages. But you know how sometimes, in other games, I'll describe things as though we're like watching it in a movie, like just camera moves or whatever. This book explicitly suggests that you frame things like a comic book. So like you will say, okay, here's the splash page of what we're seeing now. Here's this panel and here's the next panel.
Okay.
And so things like that. And so we don't always have to completely lean into that, but I think that that's kind of going to be a vibe that will.
Yeah, it's a nice fiction to
Yeah.
work, frame to work with.
Okay, great. So obviously you all know how to reach me in between, but if you don't have any other questions, I think that we can finish our session 0 here and be back in 2 weeks to meet.
Team name.
Team name.
Team name, we
Yeah.
need a team
Oh
name.
God.
Can't believe I almost had us sign off without deciding on the team name.
Okay, we need to.
That's a real
2
challenge.
hours later.
Yeah, that's kind of been knocking around my head, and I'm kind of thinking Perseids.
No,
no,
wait,
no, we're
no,
not
no, we-
attracting any attention to that at all. No.
Yeah,
No.
and you don't want to do it the Wrecking Crew because it's
No, yeah.
it's bad PR.
No, we want. Okay, hold on a second. I got an idea.
One thing I'll say too is that it is absolutely fine for it to be like a running thing of like if you keep changing the name or you can't decide on the name or argue about the name.
Yeah.
Like that can be a running thing, but I am going to insist that we pick one to start with.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Mismatch. The mismatched.
No.
No,
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 we don't
no,
want to do
no. That implies a lack of cohesion.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm playing on Teen Titans because
Sure.
it's
Uh-huh.
and also there's a bunch of like new this, new that in the stuff, new justice,
Yeah.
new whatever. So
Oh, I think we just
Oh, I think
froze up.
we.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Also,
In the Twitch chat, we had a fun suggestion: Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh no.
Oh no.
no, that's too punny.
actually, Guardians is actually a good word.
Mm-hmm.
How about the new Guardians?
Mm,
Yeah, let's. I mean, we can start with that
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
see what pops up.
Up to you. I was going to suggest too that like if you're sort of thinking of it like local, you sort of we've got a couple of things that imply sort of like a seaport area. You could have something named after like the neighborhood
Mm.
you're in.
I mean, one of the things that like superhero stories, there's often like, what's the scope, right? Daredevil and Luke Cage and that group are very often just about this one neighborhood, Hell's
Yeah,
Kitchen.
felt good.
Yeah, Hell's Kitchen.
Mhm.
And then there's people whose their scope is the city, and sometimes they're the world, and sometimes they're intergalactic.
Yeah.
Right.
So if our scope at least starts off just on
Mhm.
the harbor district, then so, and another thing is, oftentimes these names are not something the team picks for themselves. It's
Mhm.
imposed by the
Right.
press.
Mhm.
And
Ooh,
so how about if the press calls us the Harbor Kids?
I was gonna say that
Yeah.
for the
Yeah, let's
yes, Harbor Kids. That's
I
good.
like
Kids.
that.
Yeah.
The Harbor Kids.
Especially since harbor can mean protect.
Yes, yes, we
Mhm.
like we like the
Nice.
pun too.
Nice. I like that. Harbor Kids. Fun.
Hmm.
Okay. That's great. And I think, yeah, you're right. As far as scope, I think probably the scope we would be looking at is like mostly sort of neighborhood, sometimes city, rarely outside city, but then just about anything in the universe could come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Halcyon City where
We
things
also
happen.
another suggestion from Triffity Metz in the chat is villains could be the Beantown Meanies.
That should be a game. Like,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
wants to think they're big time, but is a
Yeah.
Well, I
never.
just think like the mass holes is the real one.
Oh,
Yeah. But I think that's like the grown-ups, the
Sure.
grown-up
Yeah.
ones that we're too little for them
Mhm.
right now.
Well, you know what the Beantown Meanies makes me honestly think of is actually that it's kind of a silly thing, but it's there isn't there some like little kids gang that just constantly harasses the Thing from Fantastic Four? Like it's kind of a love-hate thing, but like there's just these kids that just pick on him and he can't do anything because they're little kids.
Yancey Street Gang.
Yeah.
yeah.
I could see that. Yeah.
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 And it's just this like kind of constant like annoyance thing. But like they're little kids. I mean, what's he gonna do? But they're like always playing pranks on him and stuff. So like it could be fun that like that there's something like that where it's like they're harmless but annoying and like young or innocent to the point where you really couldn't justify taking any action at all against them.
Yeah.
yeah, I was
And like how they treat us could be like a measure of our prestige, at least
Mhm.
locally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun. Okay, cool. I
Yeah.
think lots of fun ideas starting to come together here. I'm excited to tell a superhero story with all of you, and we'll be back to meet our heroes on so many levels.
So many levels.
Yay!